Ever stop to think about your vote? I mean, what really happens to it if your candidate doesn't win? Does it just vanish into thin air? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating idea from our source material that questions the entire way we think about elections and democracy itself.
Okay, so let's get right into it. On one hand, you've got the system we all know, which is all about one thing, picking a winner. But on the other hand, there's this completely different idea where the percentage of every single vote is what really counts. We're not talking about a small adjustment here. This is a huge shift from a winner-take-all approach to more of a represent everyone model.
All right, first up, let's break down the system we're most familiar with. The source material has a specific name for it, the classical stream. And as we're about to see, it's a system built around a single powerful idea. Someone has to win. So take a look at this pretty standard hypothetical election. Candidate A gets 40% of the vote and boom, they win. They're the ones in charge, making decisions for everybody. Seems simple enough, right? But what happens when you really look at those numbers? And this, right here, is the million-dollar question. In this scenario, 60% of the voters, that's a clear majority, chose someone else. So in a system where only the winner matters, what actually happens to all those other votes? Are their voices just ignored until the next election cycle? So if that's the problem, what's the alternative? Well, the source material proposes a model that completely rethinks the value of every single vote, especially that 60% we were just talking about. You know, the source uses some really powerful language here, calling our current system a classical stream based on class and rank. Just think about that for a second. It implies there's a pecking order, a hierarchy, where the winner is top of the class and everyone else is ranked below. Their votes just don't end up having the same impact. Now, the alternative is called the community stream, and it's the total opposite, a system designed without class and rank. The entire focus shifts away from who won and onto percentage votes. In this kind of model, every vote cast helps shape the government. Nothing gets thrown away, no vote left behind, you could say. This quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. It argues that when we ignore the entire pie chart of votes, we're actually putting the health of our democracy at risk. Sure, a winner can form a government, but they might be doing it without the backing of the actual majority of people. So this all sounds pretty interesting in theory, right? But what does a system like this actually look like in practice? Let's dig into some of the cool metaphors the source material uses to help us picture this new way of doing things. I absolutely love this analogy. Instead of an election being a one-and-done event every few years, what if we thought of voting as a continuous flow of public will? You know, like a renewable energy source that's always there, ready to be tapped, harvested, and harmonized to power our government. It's not just an on-off switch. And get this, it gets even more high-tech. The source material compares this idea to a kind of blockchain. Imagine every single vote is a secure block. All those blocks get linked together into a permanent public chain. And that chain, it represents the true will of the entire community, not just the slice that voted for the winner. And this isn't just some sci-fi concept. It's actually similar to how some intellectual property systems work, where the contributions of a whole community are recognized, not just one person. The key idea here is that by mathematically including all votes, you ensure every group has a real stake in the outcome. This could seriously reduce political friction, because your opponents are no longer just the losers. They're a recognized part of the government. Now, this isn't all just abstract theory and metaphors. The source material actually points to a real-world example from the 2024 Indian elections to show us what this kind of balanced system could look like. Okay, so let's turn our attention to the Patiala district in India. The source highlights it because, in the 2024 elections, the results there turned out to be a near-perfect snapshot of this very concept in action, with votes spread out really nicely across different groups. If you look at this chart of the vote distribution, in a typical winner-take-all system, only that 35% group might end up with all the power. But in a community stream model, the government would actually look like this chart. It would be this diverse body that reflects what the whole community chose, with every major group having a seat at the table. So after looking at all this, what's the big idea we should walk away with? What could this actually mean for the future of democracy? At the end of the day, it really boils down to a massive shift in thinking. It's about moving away from a system that, let's be honest, kind of throws away millions of votes. The argument is that by valuing the entire spectrum of public opinion, we could build governments that are more stable,
more fair, and that truly mirror the entire community, not just the biggest slice of the pie. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. If the founding principle was that every single vote mattered and was always represented in the halls of power, how might that fundamentally change everything? Not just who gets elected, but the very way we're governed.